Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Well, it's the 26th of December, and historically, we call that day Boxing Day. Boxing Day. No one ever says 26th of December, we just call it Boxing Day. People who are religious sometimes call this day St. Stephen's Day, and across the world you'll often hear the 26th of December being referred to as St. Stephen's Day, particularly in Ireland and also in Spain. In Spain it's known as the Day of San Esteban, which is Spanish for Stephen. In the past, Christmas Day and Boxing Day, nothing was open. Everything was closed. But these days, things are slowly beginning to change. And some supermarkets are beginning to open, even on Christmas Day, especially the small ones. And for many people, that's quite a relief, because more and more people spend Christmas alone, and they're forced to spend it at home. I don't drive, and there's no public transport on Christmas Day, and there's a very, very limited service on Boxing Day, today, which is the 26th. As I was mentioning in my podcast of the other day, sometimes people, they feel very alone at Christmas, and therefore it's really very important that they manage to get out and at least take a walk. Some people are with family and friends that maybe they just don't want to be with, and for them it's even more important to take a breather. When we take a breather, it means that we take a break from what we're doing to stop, even just for a few minutes. And Christmas is one of those times when it's really important to get your own power and space back. Here in the UK, Christmas Day is often associated with indulgence, eating too much, drinking too much, and if you don't fit into that category, you can often be ridiculed or left behind by the people who supposedly love you. I don't eat meat and I don't drink, and that kind of automatically puts me at odds with people around me. When I say at odds, it means it puts me into a different category or a different situation compared to others. Because today is the 26th, I'm really pleased that I managed to get out the house and go for a walk. And I'm glad I did, because the 25th is lovely, but it's a day when you can often feel quite trapped, when there's nothing really happening. And also, let's say, for example, if the weather is very cold, it's often difficult to just force yourself to leave because there's nowhere to go. The 26th, however, is a little bit different. Public transport is back on, although it's not regular. Some grocery stores are open, and so it's possible to go out for a little walk. Right now I'm sitting in a coffee shop and I'm very pleased that I was able to find this coffee shop. It's actually quite close to home, but I left wondering if I was really going to be able to find a place to sit down and record this podcast. And it seems that I'm not alone doing this. When I got here, there was a queue of people standing outside waiting for the coffee shop to open. I can see as well that the supermarket next door has a number of people standing, waiting to get in. The gym, which exists in this industrial park, is also open, and many people are inside taking exercise. I think different people have different ways of dealing with this situation, but it's rather sentimental and nostalgic, especially for older people, and many of us would rather prefer if Christmas simply disappeared. I think the sharp contrasts between when we were children and now often creates an atmosphere of confusion. When we were young, or at least younger, there were people coming and going, dropping in to say hello. People called each other. There was a feeling of joy because it was shared. And that's a very different thing from today. Many British people are single or don't have children, and therefore they just feel something is kind of missing. In the past, lots of gifts were exchanged and faces were there, even if it was faces that you didn't particularly like. But now, well, you don't really get to see anyone. And even if you say Happy Christmas to some people on the streets, you might just get a blank look. I'm not quite sure why it's like that, but this is the new way we live, and some of us just struggle a little bit to bring together the past and the present. On my way to this coffee shop today, I had to walk past a row of shops, and I could see that the lights were on, but the doors were closed. The supermarket, for example, opens at 10 a.m. The lights were on, and nobody was home. We say this, the lights were on and nobody was home, as an idiom also to talk about people sometimes who can't understand or aren't able to catch an idea that you might be expressing. For example, if I'm telling my friend something about podcasting and I can see he's not really listening to me, I can say, I can see the lights are on, but nobody's home, which is a nice way to say that he's not really paying attention to me. It's just like an idiom. So when I was walking past the shops today, it just reminded me of this idiom. Now, this coffee shop isn't exactly empty. There's many people, especially middle-aged people, who are here, enjoying a morning coffee and no doubt glad, just like me, that Christmas is over. From tomorrow, things are back to normal, and it'll be a full working day. The highlights of Christmas for me, well, I suppose it was the gifts I received, the art canvases, the book that I told you about yesterday, as well as the Christmas sweets, especially the ones that arrived from Spain. Now, let me just describe this coffee shop for you. Well, I can tell you that I'm sitting at the back, and this coffee shop is a Canadian chain. Because it's a Canadian chain, there's pictures of ice hockey players all around the walls. As you might know, Canada is very famous for this game of ice hockey. Here in the UK we have it too, but perhaps not quite to the same extent. As you would expect in a coffee shop, there's pictures of coffee beans everywhere. A very open ceiling where I can see the roof, which seems to be quite common for coffee shops these days. And tables and chairs everywhere with more and more people coming in. There's cars whizzing by, some of them very slowly because they're not sure if this coffee shop is open. and there's a beautiful rainbow appearing in the sky, which I think for everyone is a new sign of hope, which is very nice. I'm really glad that Christmas time is changing, and I would imagine in the next 10 or 20 years, younger people will be demanding a very different kind of Christmas. After all, we live in a very diverse society now. Many people don't like it, don't want it. And then there's also people like me who are kind of haunted by the way Christmas was, which, by the way, wasn't great, and the way Christmas is now. When we look back at something, it's very easy to become sentimental and nostalgic. And when we do that, we say that we are looking through rose colored glasses. That's how we refer to anything which we look at in the past, but we remember it in a nice way. We forget the arguments and we forget the bad things about it. We simply remember it as being, well, looking back through rose-colored glasses. I think I'm perfectly okay with the way in which Christmas has changed. But the one thing that kind of upsets me a little bit is the fact that my neighbors, and not only my neighbors, but people around me in my streets, don't generally talk to each other. I really would have liked to wish them a happy day or a happy Christmas. But yet, that isn't possible. That kind of atmosphere doesn't exist. People don't want to know people who are around them. That's partly because I live in a place which has a kind of a small town attitude. But, well, on the other hand, it costs nothing just to be nice to someone or even to invite them. But I think part of the problem is English people tend to be very proud, and pride can often stop people accepting a nice offer or even a congratulations or happy Christmas message. Well, whether we love it or hate it, one thing is for sure, it seems to be now gone. Boxing Day, thankfully, is much easier to deal with than a day when you're kind of shut in the house. Tomorrow we're back to normal for a few days, and then something else begins, which is the celebration of New Year. Now that one's much easier to deal with because at New Year, many shops will be open. And this is why I'm saying that in the coming years, I'm quite sure that Christmas is going to be something of the past. And there'll be plenty of other opportunities to celebrate it in different ways. I understand that in some places around the world, the 6th or 7th of January is also a public holiday. It's also Christmas in some parts of the world. We don't have that here. There's also this idea of the Epiphany, as we call it, or the Three Magic Kings, as it's known in Spain. We don't have that here either. Once the 1st of January is finished, then everything is back to normal. Well, that's it from me today. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. I'm not going to do a transcript with it because I'm outside, but hopefully you now realize that many British people, we don't have families, we don't have communities, and therefore we tend to spend events like Christmas either alone or just with a select number of people. The days of large families and large social gatherings are all gone, And in many ways, people would rather just forget this time of year, especially when we're forced to do it the American way. Bigger is better. Many of us don't have the resources or the desire to do that. And there we are. So, I'll see you all again soon, and I wish you a wonderful day. Bye.